Morning. I just want to create a very short tutorial about how to use the Sekonic light meter. A lot of confusion you see over the internet. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Some people for some reason try to make things very complicated so they will sound like this is similar to rocket science, or where it's not. They are talking about pre-visualization and zone system. Yes, zone system, of course. This is what a light meter is based on. But it's very easy to do, and you have to let the device to do the heavy lifting for you, because that's what you paid money for. People are talking about recognizing middle gray in nature and then place that tone in whatever zone you think it's suitable and something like this. Well, that's one way of doing it, but could be very complicated. And again, you're not using the device to do this heavy lifting for you. What you have to understand is if you shot color negative film, for example, you expose for the shadows, you develop for the highlights. And a lot of generations of photographers showed that where you want to keep details in the shadows, you have to put this in zone 3, which is 2 stops below middle gray. So if you identify middle gray, that may help you. But again, unless you have a gray card in the scene, it will be quite difficult to do. So let the device do this for you. So what I'm going to do is I simply set my light meter to aperture priority mode. It doesn't really matter, and I'm just going to frame my composition, and then I'm going to simply meter the highlights, the shadows, and then everything in between. It's very easy to identify highlights and shadows. Highlights are the bright tones, shadows are the dark tones, but I don't know what middle gray is. Middle gray is in between. Could be that gray road, could be that gray wall, could be the green foliage. I don't know, and I don't have to know because the device will calculate for me. So if you simply point your camera, point your light meter to the sky, for example, and I get a reading of 1/60 of a second, I place this into memory by pressing this button. Then I decide which shadows do I want to keep details in, and I see this bush in front of me, and this is 1/6. I put it in the memory, and then I'm simply going to meter maybe the gray road, maybe the roof of those houses, maybe the green grass. And I can store up to 8 values in the memory. But this is where the fun part comes. You simply have to press the mid-tone button, and by rotating the jog wheel, you place the darkest tone, the shadows, in -2. Now, if you let go the mid-tone button, it will again show you the last exposure taken. But to recall the mid-tone button, you press mode and mid-tone, and this is the exact value that you have to shoot. At this value, I have the shadows at -2 and the highlights at 2.5, which is absolutely perfect for color negative film. Possible for color positive as well. But that's how you do it. You don't have to mentally calculate anything. You don't have to subtract. You don't have to add. You don't have to do anything. Just to remember that, press the mid-tone button and rotate the jog wheel until you place your shadows in the -2. That's the value that you have to shoot. Now, another way of doing it is to simply use exposure value. And this is again where a lot of people fail, because they again do some sort of a mental math. They, for example, they will meter the highlights and shadows, and then they will subtract the difference. So that will give you the dynamic range of the scene. That's not how you do it. The way you do it is you set your light meter to EV mode, for example, and you point it to the highlights, which is very easy. I'm pointing it to the sky, and it gives me 12 EV. Now, instead of pressing the memory button, I'm going to press delta average button. And now I'm going to meter the shadows where I want to keep details, and it says they are at -4. So that -4.4. So the whole scene has 4 stops of light, and it's written here on the light meter. Again, there is no need to do any mental math, nothing. You simply let the device do the heavy lifting for you. Very easy to do. It worth the money, and there's no need to invoke Ansel Adams and those system. But if you make a video about light meters, you have to say those two things: Ansel Adams and zone system. You cannot get away with that. But again, there is no need to try to make it scientifically or to make it look like rocket science. It's just meter all the tones that you are interested in, press the mid-tone button, rotate the jog wheel, and put the darkest tone at -2, and that's your exposure. See you next time.